Hello and welcome to the 1010 podcast with Andrea Belita. On this podcast, we zoom in really micro and we zoom out really macro because the goal here is to say, am I on the right path for my life and how I want my life to go? And if I am, then let's keep going, let's keep doing it. And if I'm not, then let's be brave enough to pivot. My life is a series of pivots. I grew up in southern Idaho and did not have electricity, and for a long time, no running water. My dad was a doomsdayer with mental health issues. I literally didn't think I would make it past middle school because we would be in a world war, and every 2 years, that was his prediction. My family endured a lot of pain at the hand of my dad. Every single experience is to teach us something. Because as far as we know, we have one life to live, and that is now. So there is no better time than now to choose what is next. The reason I am calling this podcast 1010 is because I am a mirror of you and you are a mirror of me, and every single person can learn something from another person. And when we are open to reflecting on our lives, man, that's when the good stuff happens. P.S. 1010 is my birthday, so it is my favorite number. Let's dive in. What if imagination is just you accessing other dimensions? This morning when I was on the couch with my 9-year-old and 5-year-old, my 9-year-old asked me to read a Star Wars book to him, and it's like this big, like really large book that is that has all these big pictures of the Starcraft that they were writing in and that they were using in Star Wars. And I was just blown away by how intricate these drawings are, by how detailed all of the names of the places are and how weird the names of the places are. I mean, I know Star Wars, but I'm not like a big fan. I mean, I like it, but it's something kind of my brothers really liked, and I just thought was kind of cool. So even though my 9-year-old can read this, he wants me to read it to him. So I've got my 5-year-old on my lap and we're snuggling in a blanket, and I'm reading these pages that are just so intricate about this world that somebody made up. And I am blown away, and I'm thinking, where did someone get an idea for this? Where did that even come from? I mean, I know that they had they started imagining it and started writing it down and started, I don't actually remember if Star Wars was a movie first or a book first, but when I think about just the creative process that went into it, and I don't know if it was a team or if it was one person. I really haven't done my research on this particular thing. But either way, whether it's a team of people or one person, I am shocked at how elaborate this world is. And it made me start to wonder. I'm like, if somebody made this, obviously somebody made this up and they imagined it out of their brains or consciousness, which I actually believe I started thinking about it a little bit more this morning as I was reading it to them. I'm thinking like, okay, I do believe there's an energetic field of consciousness in which we all have access to other dimensions. And I talk about this in my death podcast episode, which I believe is episode 37 or 38. And I speak of this, field of consciousness that we all have access to. And I started thinking, if there's this field of consciousness, then where is that? Like, why would there be a world of Star Wars that somebody decided they wanted to kind of bring to life in a playful manner? And I say playful because it became a book and a movie. It's not like we built them here and we're using them on our planet. Like, we don't even have the technology for that. So if we don't have the technology for it yet, which we actually are just now building droids, I mean, it's 2026, and 1960 something is when this whole idea came out, and you've got R2D2 and you've got these other characters, and they're all, they're talking to you like they're talking to the main characters, humans. And I'm thinking, what if there was some actual existence of beings who lived this other world, and maybe they passed back into consciousness and wanted their story to be told. Maybe this is something that we just evolve over time and it becomes our future. Like, what if there are if there's a multiverse, which I believe there is, and part of the reason I believe there is because my dreams that I have at night on a regular basis, and I've said this before, I will do a podcast episode about dreams specifically, but I do feel like I plug into a multiverse, and I have reasons why I think that's the case. So it could really be anything. I mean, we could be tapping this person, or a team of people could have been sort of channeling, because I do believe that's a thing too. Could have been channeling this idea. I mean, I'm a songwriter, and there are times when I don't even have to think about what I'm writing. It just is downloading. I am getting all the words. I can write a song in 15 minutes. I cannot tell you. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but I mean, I will write a song in 15 minutes and be like, and get the lyrics, the melody, all the things, and start playing it on the piano and love how it's turning out. And I don't believe I just made that up out of nowhere and that somehow I am a genius. I believe that there is an energetic field of consciousness in which everything exists in multiple dimensions, in a multiverse where there are timelines and time frames that, if going back to the idea of God, God is omnipotent or omniscient, where everything is past, present, and future. Now, I don't necessarily believe, God is a man who I subscribe to, but I do believe in an energetic field of consciousness in which we all exist. All things exist. From the house across the street and the house I live in to this microphone, all of it is, obviously this microphone is not living matter, but I believe that it exists within this realm of consciousness. Otherwise, there's no reason it would have ever actually materialized. Somebody thought of it, somebody designed it, somebody figured out how to make it materialize and come into existence. And so often we want to be like, wow, like I am brilliant, and I am, and so are you, and we're all these amazing beings, and that is like every single person is. And that is actually what is so incredible about this whole thing, is that we are each pieces in this grand puzzle. This is the way I look at it. We are each pieces in this grand puzzle in which I am interested in music, and I find healing and processing and joy and fulfillment and literal ecstasy, feelings of transcendence when I make music at times. And yet you might be like so interested in how the toilet works, and all you want to do is build a new type of toilet. And isn't that incredible? Because like I need a toilet and you need music. And somebody decided they wanted to breed dogs so that would be like perfect companions for human beings and wouldn't bite their nose off. And here we are. We've got so many types of breeds, and we've got all these plans that live and do exactly what we want them to with the minimal effort, so we can focus our consciousness on something else and still enjoy the beauty of this glorious plant in our front yard. And I just think we are all so different. I mean, some of us are so similar. We all have threads of the exact same thing. We all like to create. We all like to consume to help inspire us to create. We all feel deeply. We all need a sense of belonging, a sense of love, a sense of security, physically, emotionally. These are all things we need. But when it comes to imagination and actually what gets materialized in this world, it is confounding to me how this works. And I don't know. I'm just theorizing, right? This is fun to talk about. But I also believe that all the feelings that we have are very powerful. So if we're afraid of something, then that fear will manifest itself in our lives. I remember when I was religious, I believed in Satan. I believed in evil spirits trying to tempt me to do things that were wrong and that were against the commandments of God. And that was a heavy burden for me. I thought, well, I'm a good person. I really try to be a good person. I try to do good and in the world. And I'm going to try to keep Satan and his followers at bay. And I'm not going to fall for temptations and things that I'm supposedly not supposed to do or things that would harm other people. And while the intention of not harming other people and doing things that are within a higher vibration and that bring joy and fulfillment and ease and peace, that is good. That is, I say good, but that is a sense that I want to have. On the other hand, what I didn't enjoy about that belief that I had was that when I believed in Satan and these followers, then I believed I had to be very cautious and careful and I had to stay away from them and all this stuff. Interestingly though, since I've left religion, my fears about Satan and his followers and trying to bring me down has all gone away. Like, I don't actually believe in sin anymore. I don't believe that by breaking a commandment, but that we're sinning against a God. I believe that that's harm to ourselves. When we are hurting other people, we're actually also harming ourselves because we're mirrors of each other and we become what we do. And just having that release of those fears has been a huge relief. Like, it's been really nice not believing that anyone's out to get me and that I'm actually held and safe and loved and that I have everything I need in order to become, because I already am exactly who I'm meant to become. All of that was in my DNA, which of course takes us back to the metamorphosis episode where I talk about that. I want to say that's like episode 36 or something. That change and transformation is in our DNA. Like, we are literally designed to transform. And I believe it's because we have this constant access to a multiverse of timelines and time frames and things. You know, recently, I say recently, maybe like a year ago, I was thinking or several years ago, I started thinking I wanted to share my journals online. Like, I just want to read my life story because I personally find it so interesting. Like, looking at my life from the outside has been really fascinating for myself. And I do kind of enjoy this kind of analyzing my parents, analyzing my siblings, analyzing myself and how we all responded to the same environment. And so along this line of wanting to share my story, I didn't end up feeling like it was where I wanted to spend my time. And so I decided not to do the project, but I did record a few episodes, I think like around episode 35, 36, 34, something like that. I did some journal entries where I was reading my journals and then commenting on them. And I've always been quite a journal keeper. So I have tons of journals. And I think, what a waste if those just go the way of the world and nobody ever gets to hear my life. So I started thinking, what if that desire of mine to be fully known and fully seen in all of my life experiences, whether that I do actually manifest that in my life or not, because I'm still trying to give people privacy who need it, like the living family members who would like privacy around some of these things. What if that desire gets thrown up into the field of consciousness around me, and then somebody somewhere else in some other timeline and time space brings it to life? Like, what if they write a story and it ends up being about my life and all the things that I've gone through, like to a T? And the reason why I think this actually could be possible is because Elizabeth Gilbert, if you have not read her book, Big Magic, I highly recommend. And at some point, I'm going to make some affiliate link that is going to show you all my favorite books, which this one I have read like 3 times. She talks about this story where, oh my gosh, it was so fascinating. I definitely think you should read this book. She talks about how she had this very specific storyline in mind, and it's not personal experience. It's just this idea that she had about this person who was this woman, from like Minnesota. I'm botching the details, but I'm going to give you a general idea. Like this woman from Minnesota who gets a job and goes down to, she's like a spinster, like kind of, single and not really looking for love. She goes down to work on a project where they're building like a highway or a freeway or something over the Amazon, and then they spend all this money. The company that she's working for spends all this money only for this highway to get like swallowed up. And she started the book. Elizabeth Gilbert started the book, but she kind of started having some issues in her life that she needed to deal with, and ended up kind of pivoting and writing a different book. And what's so fascinating is that she had this friend who's, book signing or whatever she went to, and they connected, and her friend like gave her a kiss and was like, "It's so good to see you, Lizzie," or Elizabeth, whatever she calls her. And they, chatted and said, "We should go get coffee sometime." Well, they went and got coffee. And in that meeting, turns out this other friend was writing a book. And she said, "Oh, what is it about?" And she said, "Well, it's about the Amazon." She goes, "Oh, well, I was writing a book about the Amazon. Cool. Like, give me more." And she said, "Well, actually, you go first." So she made Elizabeth, who didn't finish the book, tell first what the story was about. After these messages, we'll be right back. I'm going to take a minute to talk about one of the programs that I have done that I absolutely loved and that got me the results that I wanted. I had been vegetarian for 5 years, thought that food was exactly what I should be eating. I mean, all of the magazines from Harvard and other places said, eat like a vegetarian or vegan so that you don't have inflammation. And I was literally about to try eating vegan, but luckily a family member put me onto some of the material from Primal Bod, and I decided to go into a deep rabbit hole and discovered the power of protein, animal protein specifically, and then proceeded to live a lifestyle with Primal Bod. I was tired of feeling bloated every single day, tired at 2 p.m. every single day, waking up in the middle of the night at 3 or 4 in the morning many times a week and not able to go back to sleep. I was tired of not feeling motivated to go exercise or to even try something that would strengthen my body. So I knew I had to pivot and pivot hard. So I went from vegetarian for 5 years to full Primal Bod, and it changed my life. Her program was exactly what I needed to walk me through the ins and outs of how my body works and how the food was affecting my body, my mental clarity. I mean, I didn't even realize how much brain fog I had until I started her program, and I had near instant mental clarity and motivation to work out. I started the program with not even one pull-up, but I was very motivated to start being able to do pull-ups all of a sudden. And by, a couple months in, I was now at like 4 pull-ups from a hanging position, which was just insane compared to where I had been before. I dropped the weight that I wanted to drop. I was stronger and trimmer than I had been in a long time, and I was doing front flips on the trampoline and landing when I was playing with my kids. No supplements, no weird stuff, just straight biology, and this is how your body works, and this is how food affects it, and I am a changed woman. I believe that struggle is good for us. I believe that finding out how our body really functions is good for us long term. And because I love this program so much, I wanted to become an affiliate for it. If what you're doing isn't working and you're ready to change, then click the link below for 10% off Primal Bod. It includes a course, community, and multiple coaching calls per week. That's Primal Bod with the link below. Recently, I started doing something a little different that I'm really excited about. I've always used songwriting to process life and to call in the things I want to create. So I started offering something where people can share an intention or something they're moving through in their life, and I turn it into a custom song. It might become a piano ballad, a dance song, a rock song. The music kind of decides what it wants to be. I genuinely believe songs are their own entities. If that sounds interesting to you, you can submit your story through the form in the show notes. I'm doing a small number of these right now for $247 while I test the idea, and I'd love to see what songs want to come through. And if you're open to it, I will also live stream the creation of your song on YouTube. So that's up to you. You can choose for it to be anonymous or live on my YouTube channel, and I can make that anonymous or I can tag you, whatever you are comfortable with. Again, if you're interested in working with me on a custom song, then please click the link in the show notes. And so Elizabeth proceeds to tell her these details. Well, it was about this, and goes on to tell all the details that basically I just told you and a little bit more. And it turns out to be a love story and blah, blah, blah. And she says, with her jaw drop, she's like, well, actually, I'm writing a story about a Minnesota spinster who gets a job at a company who goes down to Brazil, and tells her the literal exact same storyline to the T, and is like, what happened? How on earth did this happen? And Elizabeth's thought is, well, the idea exists somewhere in this energetic field of consciousness, the ether, whatever you want to call it, and those ideas want to be born or manifest. And when they do, they will come to different people and sort of tap them on the shoulder and say, like, I want to give them this idea. And if the person is willing to execute, then they do. They move on the project and they bring it to life. But I don't know if you've done this, but I get ideas constantly. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do this idea. But the minute I get the idea, guess what? So many other people in this world get this idea. Ones who actually execute are the ones who end up benefiting from the idea. And the idea gets born, and everybody kind of gets to benefit in a way, however that serves the people. But that's why ideas are a dime a dozen, but whoever executes is the one who actually gets to serve the people with that idea. So Elizabeth Gilbert's stance is that ideas want collaborators. So she's the one also who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. So that's how you would know who she is if you haven't read Big Magic. So my question is, if these ideas are floating around in space, I say in space, but in this energetic field of consciousness that surrounds us, then isn't it possibly that this spinster woman actually did exist, and that this is her consciousness wanting to be, or her life experiencing, wanting to be manifest into a story so that she's known? I mean, think of the great artists and musicians, songwriters, businessmen, women, people of the world who are like, I just want to be known. I just want to leave a legacy. I just want people to know my name. And what if that's how it happens? Maybe my life or your life doesn't end up being some grand thing like Elon Musk where everyone knows his name. Maybe your life comes through someone else's consciousness into a movie or a story or a song or an album or something that ends up helping you be known. And those ideas are literal consciousness, people who had consciousness at some point or currently in some other dimension whose lives maybe aren't amounting to what they wanted to be, or maybe they're not manifesting sort of this grand exposure to the world. And you get to do that by accessing their desire for it. What the freaking heck? I am so intrigued by this idea. It's like, I think about this stuff when I'm hiking. I think about this stuff when I'm walking. I think about this stuff in all my spare moments. I am such a daydreamer, and I always have been. And I feel like I'm constantly analyzing my life, my family's life, and people around me to see, why did they do what they did? And how does that affect other people and myself? So daydreamers tend to get a bad rap. They tend to be people are like, oh, they're just daydreaming again. But what if daydreamers are actually the ones who are the ones accessing these other dimensions more often than we are, because we're so busy in this fixed physical world? I think about even this idea of me, in the episode where I talked about my mom and talking to my mom. What if I had never believed, I could talk to my mom, and I just started talking to her on my run? What if I had never done that? I would have never gotten that experience, which would have then opened and expanded my mind further to think, well, about all these other ideas and about the energetic field of consciousness and how it relates to me and you. I mean, I've used this example a lot when I think about the energetic field of consciousness. I mean, you've likely thought, I need to text so-and-so, and then you do, and they're like, hey, I was just thinking about you. That literally happened to me this morning. Like, this kind of thing happens all the time, and you don't have to be spiritual to experience this. So what is that? Because my husband and I could be on the opposite side of the world, and he's not even in my proximity, my physical proximity, but we could have that experience, and it happens a lot with us. In fact, there was this time when I was coming in to talk to him, and he was doing work at his desk, and I come in to sit down, and I said, hey, I really want to talk to you about, and he literally finished my sentence about something that we haven't even talked about together. I was gobsmacked. And I said, how did you know I was going to say that? It's kind of like when you see ads coming up on your phone and you're like, it's reading my mind, like articles coming up. And I'm like, how is it reading my mind? That's what it felt like for him. I'm like, he read my mind and had literally no basis for it. So what is that? Because there's got to be an explanation. And that's where all my theories come from. I may not be a scientist, but I know how to think up a good theory, and I know how to philosophize. Okay, we're going to talk about what is reality, because a few days ago, my 5-year-old said to me, but that's okay, Mr. Beast isn't real. And this was about something that we were watching Mr. Beast do. And if you don't know who Mr. Beast is, he is the most followed YouTuber on the planet with almost 500 million followers. He is incredible at what he does, and he has nailed human psychology down to a T. So my son doesn't think Mr. Beast is real. And I said to him, what Mr. Beast actually is real. So you know how I'll take a video of you and then I'll show you that video? And he said, yeah. I said, that's what Mr. Beast does. So he has a friend take a video of him. I said, but sometimes they use special video effects to make the video look a little different. So Mr. Beast is real, but some of the things that he shows isn't real. But most of what he does is just using a camera. What I thought was so fascinating about that idea that he thought Mr. Beast wasn't real. And I remember thinking the same thing when I was little and watching the TV. And the moment I remember thinking, how did those people get in the TV screen? And what's even more remarkable or just as remarkable now is that I can literally watch a video of something that somebody across the world does. And that is sent to me in bits through space. I obviously am not an engineer, so I don't understand the mechanics of it. But if it's possible to send these videos that Mr. Beast made in his backyard or on a yacht somewhere in Australia, then isn't it possible that we also are sending signals to each other in this field of consciousness that exists around us that explains so much of how we feel and what we experience and what is real to us and what isn't? It used to be that cartoons themselves were what you knew wasn't real. But even then, someone had to make it up from somewhere. And I suppose that's where it gets really weird, because it's like, well, did someone live in cartoon form somewhere? This idea that if you can dream it up, it can be real. I mean, think of what we're doing, like flying to the moon, sending spacecraft across the galaxy, taking pictures of stars, and then knowing that there are more stars in the universe than there are sands on Earth. This stuff is absolutely mind-boggling. And if even that one statement is true, which scientists have said it is, that there are more sand pieces of sand on the planet than there are stars, or stars in the universe than sand on the planet, if that is true and seems so insanely impossible, then couldn't this also be true? Because we were talking about ideas and how ideas get formed and then spread and why they spread. So I have another story for you. For a very long time in my life, I will go on hikes and I will just go and look very closely at a flower, or I will look very closely at something very tiny and be like, wow, what is this world down here for you like? And then of course, biology blew my mind back in high school, where I would be looking at amoebas under a microscope. And I would think, what is life like for you? And we see you and we see this body, this little amoeba body, and we imagine what that's like. And we don't know if they communicate with each other or not. Anyway, so then I have 1,000 thoughts that come to mind as I'm literally speaking to you right now. So then I start thinking, okay, well, inside my body, I've got all these organisms. You've got your good bacteria, your bad bacteria. You've got all of the microbes in your gut. And we're kind of always trying to balance those and make sure we're healthy and strong. Well, I have often thought, what if, maybe Magic School Bus made this sort of an idea in my mind. I don't really know where the idea came from. I often imagine that there are universes within me. That if the universe itself can be so massive, think about all the sand dunes on the planet. Think about the shores of every coastline. How on earth, how is it possible that there could be more sand than stars in the sky? And if that's the case, and if I'm looking out into the universe and I see just clusters that are just galaxies. And remember that a lot of times what we're looking at when we're looking at those space photos are galaxies. We're not looking at the actual suns within those galaxies. And as we know, there are multiple suns, many suns, even in our galaxy. So if that is the case, and we're looking at galaxies and hundreds, however many suns there are just within our viewpoint, and that is supposedly crazy amounts, then if that is possible, why couldn't all of these other things be possible? The likelihood that we are alone in the universe is small. Now, I'm not a scientist, and I'm not, DeGraff or whoever that guy is. Stephen DeGraff, what is his name? I'm not Stephen Hawking. I'm not, Elon Musk, who studies space stuff a lot. I am simply a person who is trying to, in some way, grapple with what is supposedly real. So if we can go that macro into space and have there be so much space, with space even expanding, then this idea that possibly we could go that micro, think of what people are building in the nanosphere right now. I am constantly amazed by science and what people are able to build and do. But they had to get the idea from somewhere. They had to believe from somewhere that could exist. So then you have, this body, and I think, oh, maybe there's universe. Maybe I'm a universe and there are worlds within me and there are little tiny people somewhere on this world. Well, guess what? I had this idea for a very long time. And the other month, a couple months ago, I found this movie called The Life of Chuck. And you know what? I'm not lonely in that idea. As I watched the movie, it was incredibly done. I really didn't see it coming. I didn't see it all coming. I do recommend the movie. I think it's on Amazon Prime or something. But I did not see the storyline at all going to where it was. And I'm not going to give it away because I do think you should watch it. I was floored. I thought, oh my gosh, I am not alone in these thoughts. And if I am not alone in these thoughts, then maybe it could be real. Unless it's, of course, just a storyline that somebody wanted to make into a movie that has literal no consequence on the world. But if movies and music and other creations don't have consequence on the world, then why do they become so popular, so interesting? Why do these things catch fire and then people love it or resonate with it? Is it because maybe there's something that's striking a chord in that fantasy that we experience in those movies and music and cartoons or whatever is actually a remembering of other things that we've experienced. Maybe the consciousness, gets intertwined somehow, or you probably heard of entanglement, which I definitely think you should look up. Actually called quantum entanglement. And I am going to be doing an episode on that. Of course I will. And then there are episodes I'm going to do on some other super interesting things that I have studied in physics over the years. Physics, in fact, is one of my favorite subjects. And it's the one subject that I wish I would have taken in high school, but didn't. And I've just done some studying on the side about it because I find it so intriguing. For me, it's how you combine the visible and invisible world. And that's how, I feel like it provides that deeper underlying structure of the physical world. I also wanted to quickly revisit this idea of my son not thinking that Mr. Beast was real. My 5-year-old often still thinks that anything that happened before yesterday was yesterday. So last year, last month, last week, yesterday, all those meld together into one experience for my son, and he calls it yesterday. Our time on this planet conditions us toward time, which we need in order to maintain order and discipline and understanding and to have trajectories of our life and kind of figure out how to live. It's just the time. The planet is based on time. The sun sets, the sun rises, goes around the sun once a year, this many days. We become rhythmic beings. But for my son, who still lives in this state of non-rhythm and just in the moment of everything, and then remembering things that happened in his life, I think that this is actually our natural state, that our consciousness eventually, when we pass over to the energetic realm, that time is not relevant. And so when we talk about time frames and timelines and accessing, ideas from different time frames and timelines, what if Star Wars, going back to that original story, is just maybe a different time frame? Maybe it's the same time frame, but a different timeline. Maybe it's a different place, or maybe it's after we have, gotten that far in our development as humans. Either way, I believe that imagination is accessing other dimensions. And that when we use that imagination and we let it move us to action, that is when the immaterial becomes materialized, when the consciousness becomes materialized. And then I, of course, start to wonder, well, is that how Earth was formed? Is that how our existence is formed? Because I do believe that we actually create our existence here. And I recognize that we grow up in certain circumstances that we do not have power over, but I do believe that we always get to points that are crossroads and opportunities to pivot and take a new path. And that when we take those opportunities, we are able to fully create a new reality for ourselves. And I do think that we do that by imagining what we hope our life to look like. I remember saying to my mom when I was in high school, I am going to marry somebody who has dark hair, and I'm going to live in a big house and have kids and be a stay-at-home mom. And guess what? I have that. And it was only because I had that vision for myself. And I believe that when we are brave enough to have and accept the visions that we have for ourselves, rather than thinking, well, that's too much, or that's too superficial, or, wanting a big house, how superficial is that? But if you want it and you desire it, why is there a problem with having it? Every experience teaches us something. So when I got my really big house of 5,400 square feet in Atlanta, Georgia, or in, Georgia, I realized I didn't want a house that big. I didn't actually like that. So when we moved to California and we downsized, I was like, wow, this is actually much better. That I don't actually like having a lot of unused space in my house because it actually ends up taking space in my brain because I'm like, oh, I have to do something with that room. So here I am able to refine what I like, what I want, all because I had a chance and allowed myself to want what I want. That is the beautiful experience of this life, is learning what we want, learning what we enjoy, and stepping into that joy, that imagination, dreaming up what we want for our lives. That is the reason I believe we are here, and we get to manifest so many ideas and materialize what is out there. So maybe it's time to saddle up and partner up with that imagination that you have and that idea that's been stirring up in your mind for a long time. Please leave me a review on the podcast because this is how it will grow. I want to know what you think. If you're on YouTube, then write in the comments your thoughts on this episode. This is an unscripted podcast. My name is Andrea Belita. The music in this is by me. If you want to hear the song, the intro and the outro is Dreamer. It's my instrumental version, but I also have one with words. You can look it up. All of my music is under Andrea Belita, Belita. It's my middle name. It means little beautiful and it's Spanish. Thank you for being here. Please share this if it meant something to you or was interesting enough to have a conversation with another friend or family member with, and I'll see you next week.